welcome to Geopolitical Trends. So excited to be with you as always on this December 5th. So I got an interesting topic for you today. So I'm going to be talking about what the state of Qatar has stated a few weeks ago. And now it's coming to a head whether they're going to follow through with what they said before. And their statements is if Israel doesn't stop its atrocities, Qatar will go ahead and arm Hamas. Now, this is what we call a moment of truth. So this is what I'm going to be sharing with you, my insights about, and provide you some sort of an update about what's going on in the region and specifically with this issue here. So please type in where you are joining me from. If this is your first time, I will greatly appreciate if you could subscribe to this channel. And I want to say just thank you to one particular individual who bought me coffee by the name of Robert. Robert, thank you so much, man. Truly appreciate it. So, and to all of the channel supporters and members, remember, I am going to be doing an exclusive live Q&A for the channel members. So if you consider supporting this channel, become a member or a supporter, and I will meet you at the end of this month. So. All right, here's the key question that you guys gonna have to think about, and I typed them for you here because one of our viewers asked if I could type in the questions so you guys can read them. So and correctly so. So here's the first question: will Qatar follow through and arm Hamas as it says it would? Second question: how will this change the calculations for Israel? Because again, it depends on what type of weapons. If Qatar decide to move forward with this, are they going to provide Hamas? And the third question that we need to think about is if Qatar does this, whether other Arab countries follow suit, mainly Saudi Arabia, because they have so much stockpile of weapons that they bought from the US that they are no of use to them at this time. So those are the key questions I'm going to try to provide you a brief analysis about, in addition to, as I mentioned earlier, highlight to you the updates about the developments that's taking place. So the Qatari Prime Minister, his name is Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al-Thani. I have a picture of him here. By the way, all those members are the same family. They hold the key positions. This is one thing that I question. That I question their really judgment about this kind of statements. Are they truly gonna go for it, or is it nothing but bravado? Because their concern is more about power than it is about doing the right thing and support the weak individuals in this case. Now, mind you, arming Hamas is going to escalate the tensions to even further. This is where the big concern, and we can't just move emotionally regarding those issues like this. But nonetheless, you gotta call a spade a spade. So for Qatar, they needed to think twice before issuing statements. That's like me here. If I tell you I'm gonna do a live stream tomorrow at 1 o'clock, that means I have to follow through. Simple as that. Why? Because some of you is going to come over, allocate your time to sit here and listen to what I have to say and so forth. Well, if I am in no show, that's kind of disrespect for you, and I will lose my credibility and all that. The same arguments can be made, except this is on a much bigger or a different level altogether. And the idea of the Qatar, because Qatar has played a major role, by the way, in mediating the recent ceasefire, which has collapsed. And to me, it suggests that, well, the ceasefire was nothing but a window dressing. Becomes the question from each part. Oh, whose part? Who's to blame for that? Is it the Palestinian side or is it the Israeli side? I'll let you reach that conclusion yourself. You're smart enough to know. So just the background for those who might not know the background story of how Qatar came to be the mediator in this recent ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. So Qatar Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman bin Jassim Thani, the one I mentioned, the one I showed his picture, his is by a few weeks ago. He was emphasizing the need for a ceasefire, and he even called in a phone call with the U.S. Secretary of State, because they know the U.S. has a little bit of influence on Israel. Does it? So it's becoming clear to me that is the other way around. U.S. might not even have any influence on Israel. It's the other way around. Israel only depends on the U.S. for its own security. But as far as policies, they'll do whatever. And living long now with the incompetent Biden, they kind of just shrug their shoulders. Yeah, whatever old Joe says, it won't matter. But for Qatar, during that phone call, they did stress the idea of the ceasefire. In other words, there was another way of telling the U.S., hey, you need to tell Israel to sort of agree to this ceasefire. What has not been reported directly, it was that during the negotiations for the ceasefire, Israeli pulled their team of negotiator out of Qatar. That tells me right there, it was already understood that Israel is not going to hold its end of the bargain for the ceasefire. That's the, and I'll provide you a link for all these guys. So now, when Qatar said that, well, we sort of confirm and reaffirm our commitments to the ceasefire and so forth, then after that you say, well, if Israel doesn't hold its own side of the bargain, we will be arming Hamas. Well, here it is now. Here is now, as we call in English, a moment of truth. This is where you find out whether Qatar, like other Arab countries, is all talks or truly it can follow through. Mind you, as a geopolitical analyst, I can see the consequences of something like this, where it will lead to. Do we want to see an escalation of this? The short answer is no. It's because what it will lead to. On the other hand, how do you meet force with force if you don't show force? Could it be that maybe Israel will understand that language? As a matter of fact, Tel Aviv has been targeted. Again, we don't hear much about it. And I read the reports from overseas. People were fleeing. You look at the recent issue at the Red Sea, and I have some pictures here from the. Oh, I didn't put. Yeah, I did. Right here, guys. There's an image. This is the Carney destroyer in the Red Sea that was attacked by the Houthis. It tells me personally that the Houthis will be willing to meet fire with fire. But again, it's the concern about the escalation of this to another level. And we are not even talking yet. We're not even talking yet. Iran getting involved. Syria getting involved. As to Russia and China, they're not going to get involved directly. Of course, it doesn't make any sense. Because if you do, you're talking about World War III here. Where is the challenge going to be now is for a country like Qatar, that because the statements that was said, it wasn't meant to be for really delivering weapons to Hamas, rather just to give a lip service to the Arab world and to the Palestinians for that matter. Now, do you blame the Qataris? No, because other countries do it. Egypt does it. Jordan does it. Saudi Arabia does it. Kuwait, Bahrain, as a matter of fact, the prime minister of Bahrain sides with Israel. More power to you, man. But again, we need to understand the possession of Bahrain, why, and what's in Bahrain. And I did mention to you this last time. So when you look at the what's his name, the emir, this is the equivalency of the president of Qatar. So the emir, his name is Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Same family dynasty. That's no different than in Jordan, that's no different than in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and all the. It's the family. This is where I am more convinced than ever, and have been more convinced than ever. It's all about survival of the monarchy. Simple as that. So, will the question is again the calculations that have to be made should this move forward? Because here is the challenge to all this. When we say, well, Qatar might end up arming Hamas, what type of weapons do you think Qatar will be providing Hamas in case? So that's a question for you guys. What type of weapons do you think, or do you believe, should Qatar decide to go ahead and arm Hamas? What kind of weapons they're going to provide them? Please type in the answer in the chat box, and I will greatly appreciate that one. Hosiris, thank you so much, man. Truly appreciate it. Muslim revert. I can see Qatar is weak, though. Yeah, it's a small size country. Very, very small. I think you can even put Qatar inside New Jersey here in the US. So survival to them is the key, because but even if they go with this, what kind of weapons they're gonna be providing? So let me just see what you guys put in here, because I like to have your input as part of this conversation here. That is correct, Muslim. They have the American base. It's a small one. Doha, that's an Air Force base. Very, very, very small. But in comparison to Bahrain, where the Fifth Fleet is, that's substantial. Very, very, very big one. So let me see what type of answers you guys. Jack, Yusuf Ansari, you said Stingers. That will be major one. Yes, I can see that. Solo Stingers. I can see that one. I can see that. This one, drones. No, I don't see them doing that. If you are to think about the drones, there is another country that is even better at that. Do you guys know who that country is? And will it provide Hamas with that? And it also has a good relationship with that group. Let me see, which country do you guys think? This is just for the drone part. Iran. That will be, yes, one, but the one I'm referring to here is start with a T. You're absolutely correct. You got it. Karakola. Because Turkey, Alan Sin, you also got it right. You're absolutely correct, because Turkey has a good drone. Iran does as well. But it will be kind of slight different coming from Turkey than it is coming from Iran. Why? Because Turkey is a NATO member, okay? Turkey has some sort of policies that align with the US, but also made it clear to the US that we aren't going to stand for this way. If they are not going to stand for this, they're going to move forward with acts, with deeds. Providing those drones will be one way of doing that. Let alone Turkey has been calling for the investigation of Netanyahu by the ICC. Whether that's going to happen or not, I have my doubts. So, Salma M, thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate you, and good to have you here in our community. Thank you so much, Salma. I appreciate it. So you're absolutely correct, guy. And this is where we have to think in terms of the strategic thinking. Sometimes the only problem that I always see with this is when countries says more than they can deliver on. As we always say, put your money where your mouth is. It's the same argument. And this is why I have learned over the years to pay close attention to countries, organizations, or whomever, for those that say too much but not act, and those who do not bluff. This is how I see it. This is why, in my experience, why we never attacked, for example, North Korea, because we know North Korea is not going to be bluffing. Let alone now that they just tested the ICBM, that means they're ready. And they're going to be launching, by the way, a satellite way up there, a spy satellite that we can't even control. So same thing applies to Iran. We've been talking about, but I do know sometimes in the case of Iran, because Iran just had about 3 of its IRGC, I believe, officers killed in Syria strike by the Israelis. And Iran said, well, we will retaliate. We don't know. Could Iran retaliate differently without exposing itself? The possibility is there, knowing that could be even this attack from the Houthis on the Karni and the other oil tankers is part of that. That's possibility. The one thing for sure, Iran and some other countries will never come forward and said, we did A, B, and C. No, especially when it comes down to this. And this is where I am wondering as to how far Qatar will will they follow through with this? I do have my doubts. So this is where, so at least we understand for the part of Iran, for example, part of even Qatar itself, when it comes down to funding, they do provide funding, they do provide help with the rebuilding constructions and so forth. But that's all it is. Here it is. All the money they put in after 2006, because remember, this was in 2006. It's just a cycle repeating itself. Now you saw the massive, as a matter of fact, I do have a picture of sort that I need to share with you. If I can find it. Yeah, I do have a picture here. I'm going to share it with you guys because you need to see which I'm sure you've been aware enough for the massive amount of destructions that took place. And all this was part of what has been rebuilt back in 2006. So here's an image here. Of course, doesn't show the massive, but this one is the recent attack by Israel on, and this the photo. We give credit to Mr. Anas Sharif. That's I read Arabic, so Anas Sharif, that's his name. The images of the Israeli strikes, and at the same time, violation of the ceasefire that's been agreed upon. So here is another image of the tanks moving forward from the Israeli side. And this one, a maneuver near the border, by the way, with Gaza. And this was only as of 2 days ago. It was on Sunday. So now, when we see an image like this, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about Israel expanding its ground operations? Maybe, maybe not. Then at the same time, because Israel wants to push the Gazans into the south, not the north. Well, the South, Egypt is opposing to that. But even Egypt is just talking. Why? Because Egypt receives a $2.4 billion from the US to keep its mouth shut, to maintain peace with Israel. So where's the Arab countries? Like I always say, and it's not a laughing matter. They talk more than they act. And I am putting Qatar in the same category here. But again, I do understand the reluctance of Qatar maybe because of the widening of the conflict, But it's not about that 100%, rather about the monarchy survival, the Al Thani family, and so forth. And most countries will have those calculations, by the way. It's understood, if I may use the term. So the emir will have to think about the welfare of. But if you are to say, well, we're gonna do this and do that, then it becomes very upon the regime to think strategically how this is going to translate moving forward. And yeah, the next question that comes, which you guys already answered, it will be what type of weapons? Well, let's go with the assumption of Stingers. What if it is, then what does it mean? That you're going to start seeing Israeli helicopters, because the Stinger is not going to reach, depending on the height, If Israel is flying in the F-35s, it can go way, way up. Israel will always have an advance from air power, But at the same time, that doesn't mean certain anti-aircraft missiles can be provided. Remember, Iran has the S-300 missile systems from Russia. But deploying that to Gaza, that means the expansion of the war beyond the conflict beyond the borders, which I've already have no doubt about that. It's a matter of time, but that matter of time would have to be very, very calculated because civilians end up paying the price. This is where the problem is. And I came across, guys, a video I need to share with you. So you'll see it for yourself. Share screen. Let me start it from. Very disturbing. And I think the guy in the cab trying to explain to them, no need to treat the guy like that. And the guy is not scared. He stood up to them. That's point blank. It's not right. It ain't right. That's a war crime. Right there. It's a war crime. Yeah, you can arrest the guy. You can whatever. But that's a war crime. That's a war crime. It's not right. It's disturbing to see, but I want you to see, guys, with your own eyes. You'll be your own judge. So and this is what I'm saying. Okay, hypothetically, Qatar is seeing all this. So what they're gonna do now? And it's disturbing. That's all I can say. And the problem is that, not the problem, but rather Israel understand the ramification of its action. This is why you have insiders inside the government of Israel, like the former head of the Shin Bet, that's the security service for Israel, calling for Netanyahu to step down immediately. The military, top brass in the military inside, are saying, what this guy is doing, Netanyahu, what he's embarking on is revenge, and that revenge is no military tactics. When you embark on revenge, because your emotions that guide you, you can't compare that to a military strategy. Or there is no strategy. There is no, they don't even know what their end goals are. And this is why, for us as Americans, I'm questioning the judgment of my own government, a government that is incompetent. My own government is incompetent, and I don't shy away from saying it. So, and yeah, it's disturbing. It is disturbing as to where this is leading. And again, if this atrocities keeps going, at some point, somebody's going to have to make that decision. You're going to meet force with force. You've seen a glimpse of it from two entities, from Hezbollah and from Houthis, which are both outside, that's the key, outside the realm of power within governments. Because Houthis on their own, Hezbollah on its own, yet they do get support from Iran. It's no secret. My point is, they don't have to be thinking about power and sort of survival of the regime and all. They care less for that. And this is why the U.S. is not responding yet. Of course, the U.S. has to have calculations to that. U.S. is thinking in terms of, if we retaliate now against, they're going to retaliate against Israel. In other words, everything's going to be redirected to Israel. And this is why I said the reason, and I mentioned this before, guys, the reason why Israel cannot attack Iran is because they know what the outcome is going to be. Major cities in Israel will be showered with missiles. Hezbollah, as I mentioned, has over 150,000 missiles. Iron Dome will stand no chance whatsoever. And this is where the bigger picture, we ought to think about it this way. As to what Egypt is going to do, Egypt is thinking in terms of its own survival. Sisi will have to think about ensuring no other high-ranking topple him for power, because Egypt has always been that way. And by the way, Egyptian people and Egypt government, they don't see eye to eye. On the opposite end, it's no different than the Jordanian people and the Jordanian government. They don't see eye to eye. Yeah. And this is where that difference is. And I want you guys to grasp this understanding for why you're going to see more action from movements, from groups, than you see it from a well-established a sovereign state like Saudi Arabia, like Jordan, like Turkey. As the word saying, there is a proverb in French. It says, l'art est difficile, mais le critique est facile, which translates to art is very difficult, but criticism is so easy. It's so easy. Same thing. When you got this sovereign nation saying, we're going to have to support this and support that, it's so easy to say. It's in action that you find out. And that's where that challenge is. And I don't see them doing this one at all. Oh, I want to say thank you to Nerman Aliriza. Thank you very much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate it. You wrote, as a potential honest broker in the Middle East, China can find reliable partners in the Arab world. But how can it trust Israel if it has always thwarted efforts to create a Palestinian state? Logical question. Logical question. I am thinking in terms of should China, and I talked about this yesterday, and I don't mind repeating it for those who have not watched that video yet. I am of the argument that China will rely, yes, I will use the term rely, will have to rely on certain Arab countries or Muslim countries if it decides to go with this Israeli-Palestinian conflict to solve it. And mainly, you're going to be looking at the countries that have an influence within Palestine. And they are about four, to my knowledge. You got Iran, you got Qatar, you got Jordan, and you got Egypt. Saudi Arabia to a degree. Saudi Arabia always played the financial aspects. So what China is going to have to do is to ensure that any proposal China will come forth with does not get sort of blocked by the Palestinian side. Well, that's only one side of the equation. Then you have the other side. And like you put, like Nermin put, you're absolutely correct. Are you going to be trusting the Israelis to hold the end of the bargain? I don't see that. And even if you go with that, are you going to count on the U.S. not undermining that? Like I said yesterday, this is going to be if this goes forward and China succeeds in this, I do believe it'll succeed. It's just, it will take a long time. It will be the last nail in the coffin for the U.S. credibility on the world stage. That will be basically the end. Because it's for our strategic interest why we are propping up Israel the way we are. And once again, guys, I want you to get this. We're not talking about Jewish people. Two separate things. Always keep this in mind, guys, please. The reason being because when you converse with others, and if you overlap the two, Zionism and Jewish, you lose the arguments right there from the get-go. That shows you do not understand really the structure, how it is. But if you do, and you are able to maintain in your conversation with others, and you make it clear to them that because they don't know, you are in a better position when it comes down to arguing for this. So yeah, this is where I see, as far as China being the potential honest broker, absolutely. China has nothing to gain from advocating one or preferring one over the other. We do, in the case of Israel. We do, because of our interests in the Middle East. Israel is almost, I see it like another base of the U.S. I mean, the lifestyle, how the Israeli government is living, to me, it's chaotic existence. Sad, that's how I see it. So, but for us, Israel serve as our eyes and ears in the region. That's why we decided to arm it to the teeth and so forth. So, and for this argument, as far as Qatar supporting, there will have to be some major air power. Well, if you got air power, who's going to be flying those planes? I don't know. Does Hamas have fighters? I don't know. I do not know. So I can't speculate on something like this. As the same arguments I've made regarding Ukraine when it was the argument about, well, we're going to have to provide F-18s for Ukraine. It's nonsense. Who's going to fly them? That means you have to have Western pilots, which means what? Automatically gets you into the conflict. The same thing. Because Ukrainian pilots are trained on the MiG, not on the F-18s. And if even to go train for that, they need about 3 to 4 years to master that. The same arguments can be made in this case. And again, just to put this in the big picture, I want to say thank you to Lina Bajiba. Thank you very much for becoming a channel member. Truly appreciate your support. And look forward to seeing you at the end of the month for the exclusive Q&A for the members. So thank you so much. So the idea of we have to think in terms of how the Middle East is going to move forward with this, because the conflict in the Middle East has never been easy. I am in a process of looking into the last peace proposal that was suggested by the what's his name, just died, Henry Kissinger. It's worth looking into to see really where the weak points, and I'll share it with you when that time comes. But it's just the idea of us to understand. Statements are easy to say. It's in action that you're going to find out. Because now Qatar puts itself in a bad situation. And I will use the same arguments for China regarding Taiwan. Of course, we are saying China is going to invade Taiwan. Well, wait a minute. The reason we use the term invade for us, by the way I use it is because Western audience cannot understand any different aspects than the certain terminology. It's like if you tell the Western audience that, well, by the way, guys, Taiwanese are Chinese. They're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. And at the same time, China has declared that if Taiwan declared independence, China will step in militarily. That means China is putting its credibility in line, and I do believe China will act should Taiwan. This is why even the US, there were some sensitive documents didn't make it to the media, sort of pushing Taiwanese not to do that. Yeah. Behind closed doors, there were voices inside Washington telling Taiwan, do not go that route. And yet we can still provoke China differently and so forth. But for that aspect, because we know China ain't bluffing, they will react. In the case of Qatar, it puts itself in a bad situation. They will be better off not saying it. And now here it is. Israel is bombarding. You also the refugee camp that's been attacked and so forth. So what? But the way you're gonna know is when you start to hear and see images that, of course, Israel is not gonna trust what they're saying, that they have taken out the head of the commander of Hamas. All this is nonsense. You're gonna have to think twice about trusting what's coming out of Tel Aviv. So, but the idea of the Qatar will have to think in terms of for you to understand that, yes, some advanced type of systems have been provided. When you start to see the outcome of the conflict tilting a different balance, so far is tilting one direction, the Israeli direction, in favor. Of course, there are other pockets, like in the southern border of Lebanon, which we don't hear about, that military elements of Israel have been targeted. We are now hearing about the Houthis, which happened a few days ago. Of course, Washington will have to navigate the narrative so they can create confusion. This is where the difference is. Uh, yeah, I don't know what Qatar is going to do. I really do not know at this point, because I can understand that kind of very, very delicate position they put themselves in. Uh, because at this point, it won't matter. It won't matter if they don't move forward with what they said they will. And remember, because I gotta bring you back a few years ago with the tensions between Qatar and other GCC, when the other GCC members, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and I think United Arab Emirates, gang up on Qatar. Yeah, it's a small. Yeah. So as to Egypt, well, Egypt, we know the Egyptian system is corrupted, has been forever. Even before the time of Hosni Mubarak, who's been in power for almost 30 years. It was the same arguments that's been made. It's because it's the military that controls. That gives me the same approach, not in in style, but almost there, between Pakistan and Egypt. Pakistan also, the civilian government, it's useless. Is the military that controls that behind the scenes through the ISI. Now, this is what happened with Imran Khan when he was ousted, because he challenged, first of all, the US, and second, he didn't want to appoint the ISI director that the military want. So at that time, I don't know if he's still General Bajwa, who is, by the way, another corrupted general. He got assets in London. They all are. Same thing applied to Egypt. Hosni Mubarak ended up with massive billions of dollars in Swiss bank. Where that money came from is our tax dollars that we've been given every year from way back, since the peace has been reached between Israel and Egypt. From that year forward, you'll remember. Can anybody remind me what year the peace between Israel and Egypt was signed? I just want to see your. So it's the same thing. Uh, I just don't see anything changing in in Egypt. Now Egypt, it's oh, you got it right. You got it right. 1979. Yes, you absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. 69. No. 79. 79. I'm sorry. I'm like right here. Where is it? Yeah, right here. And that's the first one I saw. 79. Muslim revert. You're absolutely correct. So we've been given billions of dollars. We reduced it. I used to be, I think, to my knowledge, used to be, I think, 3.7, if I'm not mistaken, way back. We reduced it now to 2.4. Tax dollars. Americans have no clue. So for us, some of us, well, because we're involved in, international affairs and so forth, you have to know these kind of things. Well, same thing. I see the same arguments. Why are you sending my tax dollars? I never approve of that. And I don't care for that. Yeah, do I care to help the needy? Of course. It's like with you guys, with the support you providing for this channel here. I'm going to pay it forward. I want you to know this ahead of time, guys. I'm going to pay it forward because that's the right thing to do. This someday, who's to say? I run to somebody who needs help. You never know in life. I got no problem with that. But to just give money to corrupted leaders, I got a problem with this when I know we have problems right here at home. So why should I? That doesn't mean you don't want to help the needy. Yeah, you do, but not at the corrupted ones. So we've been giving billions since that time forward. And ask Americans, they wouldn't even know. They will never ever know. Oh, Alan Cian, thank you so much for your super sticker. I truly appreciate it. That's just the way I see it. So if you are to think Egypt about the idea of well, okay, are they gonna sort of decided maybe we could have a talk with the Israelis, and since they do have a relationship and so forth. No, uh, I don't see that happening. I just do not see that happening. Whether that's gonna take place or not, no, I don't see that. They're not gonna know, because if you have to think about the whole 1967, the Six-Day War, that's changed sort of the Middle East trajectory. It really changed it. For the good, for the bad, well, we know from that forward, it became. I mean, if you are to think about the surprise attack, not in 67 but 73, that's the surprise attack on Israel. Yeah. I don't see that happening again here, because the dynamics, the geopolitical landscape has changed. It's just the armaments of groups like Hamas, like this, whether it's going to work or not. As to Hezbollah and the Houthis, they can manage their own, because they will be able to deliver on this stuff, and they're not going to hold back, Israel or not. I mean, you all saw what they did to the Saudis during the conflict. They didn't hold back. They attacked the oil refineries. Even the Iron Dome in Saudi Arabia was useless. So this is where I see how things go. So I'm gonna look up for a question or two from you guys, and we just go from there. Oh, I see one from Youssef right here. Youssef Ansari. Question: how will Egypt deal with the refugees on its borders? Well, they don't want them. They already claimed that. They don't want the refugees. So, and this is what I'm saying. What Arab says. It's Egypt has serious issues internally, economic ones, that is. Massive. Inflation. Even their currency is going down. So where's the money that we've been giving? The military controls this. They're opening up private accounts, and it's corruption to its core. I mean, if they will have let the system work itself, yeah, democracy. Well, how come you didn't let, when the elections took place back then, and it was the group of Brotherhood that won the elections? That's what the people want. Is because Brotherhood were doing far better than the government as far as services. The same argument is made about Hezbollah in Lebanon. And I know people in Lebanon. I talked to them. I was in the region. So the services they provide in it, the government cannot match that. So who do you think people's going to go with? So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But again, this is where power corrupts. People start to think in terms of material stuff. They don't, and you can't rationalize with people like that. We have it right here in Washington. You look at those politicians. He'd been in power for so long. Now they're just saying some ridiculous things. All right, guys, let me see one more question here, and if I don't have one, I'll sign up. And I'm gonna be working on I'll be working on a story for the Latin American president of Argentina, Javier. So I'm putting it together for you guys. So, Army with Harmony, good to have you, man. Question: how can Israel force the U.S. House to vote against the will of the people and vote for more funding to Israel? Soon there will be a vote on the matter in the House. Yeah, it's easy. Lobbyist, AIPAC, the American Israeli Political Action Committee. That's what is the lobbyist for it. Very powerful. They control members of Congress. This is why you're hearing Marco Rubio, senator from Florida, saying that, oh no, you gotta blame Hamas for all this. You hear Lindsey Graham and all those guys been there long time. They need to go because our system is corrupted. You look at even the Speaker of the House, the new guy. His first legislation was about providing funding for Israel. That just shows you right there who's in charge. And this is why, to those who say, well, the US has a lot of influence on Israel. No, it's the other way around. It's the lobbyists that control how Washington is. And this is why some of us who worked in Washington, and after many years, you start to see, you said, you either want to be part of that or not. In my case, I left. That's it. Because I started having a hard time sleeping. Yeah. Because you know when you do the wrong thing, and if you make a clear decision, and this is how I want my life to go. I want a simple life, and I enjoy doing this. Even with this, guys, I'm finding out they're trying to suppress this channel. Yeah, I know some of you. As a matter of fact, one of our viewers in the channel here, guys, just shared. I'm gonna share this with you without putting the name here. So they say he put, and he or she, and I quote, Doc, I have a reason to believe this platform here trying to sabotage your popularity in circulation, because each like, when you hit a like that I hit these days, born to the same number of figures of subsequent YouTube I watch. That just tells you right there. So thank you so much for sharing this. And I didn't get the confirmation to disclose the screen name, so I'm not going to say that. So this is why I say, guys, please hit the like button, share it with others that you know, that the people who can absorb this kind of information. That way, the more people see it, what the algorithm is going to do. You can block everybody. Somebody will have to. So just share it, hit the like, and please subscribe if this is your first time here. All right, guys, I hope you find this very informative, and I look forward to seeing you again. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time. Bye-bye.